tassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato.
Namo tassa bhagavato.
Arahato sama sambuddhassa.
Arahato sama sambuddhassa.
Next we go slightly religious. Buddham saranam gacchami.
Buddham saranam gacchami.
Dhammam saranam gacchami.
Dhammam saranam gacchami.
Sangham saranam gacchami.
Sangham saranam gacchami.
Tudiyampi buddham saranam gacchami.
Tudiyampi buddham saranam gacchami.
Tudiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami.
Tudiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami.
Tudiyampi sangham saranam gacchami.
Tudiyampi sangham saranam gacchami.
Tatiyampi buddham saranam gacchami.
Tudiyampi buddham saranam gacchami.
Tatiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami.
Tudiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami.
Tatiyampi sangham saranam gacchami.
Tudiyampi sangham saranam gacchami.
So you with 5 precepts to bring themselves not to kill, not to steal, not to commit sexual misconduct, not to lie, and not to take intoxicants, anything that would cause sleeplessness. Pavanatipata, Viramani Sikhavada,
Samadhi,
Adinadana,
Adinadana,
Viramani Sikhavada,
Veramani Sikapasha,
Samadhi, Gami Sumichachara,
Gami Suchacha,
Viramani Sikhavada,
Veramani Sikapasha,
Samadhi,
Samadhi,
Usavada,
Usavada,
Viramani Sikhavada,
Veramani Sikapada, Samadhi,
Suramivaya,
Suramevaya,
Majjapapadathana,
Majjapamadatana,
Viramani Sikhavada,
Veramani Sikapada, Samadhi.
So we'll try to put this practice, do it with diligence, with mindfulness. Apamantita Samadhita, Isehamantita. Our preachers recited the precepts, and often this is called SIla. And this use of the word SIla is actually a later use. Look back to the early text, the word SIla has much wider meaning. And this, to me, is very important to understand. Extremely important to understand. When the Buddha talks about Sila Samadhi Panya, the Sila does not mean just observe practice actually. And I've covered everything. If you think like that, then you will not function as in the Sila, including the teaching of Sila Samadhi Panya, as the way out of suffering. Because all you do is to keep the 5 precepts as for the component of Sila, that is definitely not enough. It will not do the job. It will help you in that when you talk about Sila in that way, the Buddha say that the person who has virtues, who has Sila, can go to a better place and be a human being again in a much better position, can go to the heavens. But he didn't say that that would be enough for you to be free from suffering. If you practice Sila, if you think in terms of one thing, practice Sila for the sake of free from suffering, then Sila has to take on much wider meaning. And if you look into the Pali dictionary, widest meaning of this word Sila is conduct. So it's not just about, okay, I don't kill, I don't steal, I don't do all these bad things, and okay, doggy, I cover everything. No. It's not enough. Because behavior is not just about what you don't do, but also what you do. The certain things that we do keeps us within suffering. And there are certain things that we don't do also keep us within suffering. So I'm going to talk about this by giving you some examples of how it actually works in your lives. Let me start with myself. Okay, do you agree that it's a kind of suffering to have a sense of defectiveness, a sense of inferiority, a sense that you're not good enough, a sense of shame about yourself? Something about yourself within you, whether it's true or not true, you believe that based on that, you believe that you're not good enough, you're not good. Is that kind of suffering? Yeah. And what do you do with the research? Meditate. Is it an uncomfortable for you? Anybody who has tried will know that it's not enough, right? Okay, it's very safe.
Sila means being.
It is. You can't deny that. It's kind of suffering. It's one of the many kinds of suffering that people face these days. And this is quite universal. The sense of not being good enough. It's quite common among Chinese community and Chinese society. But it's not only among Chinese people. The West, we have this problem. Yeah. Maybe even worse. I don't know. But it's all over the world. And this is a kind of suffering. And also it involves an ego because of this me that's not good enough. So if you want to be free, you need to work on it. On all three areas, Sila, Samadhi, Panya. I'm going to touch on the Sila and Panya bit because it's quite the topic. But touch only mostly on the Sila bit. Actually, although we say you need to work on the Sila, to begin, you actually need to work on the Panya, to work on the wisdom, because you need information. When I'm telling you about these things, I'm giving you that information, I'm giving you that understanding. Because that's not enough, you still need to think about it and think about how to put it into practice. But I'll be focusing on Sila for this talk. So, when I was a teenager, I did begin to notice that there was the same sense of shame in me. And my way to cope with this sense of shame is basically two ways. One is to ignore it, pretend that it doesn't exist. It's a common thing people do. And the other way is to fight it. It's trying to do the complete opposite of that. That is to behave as if I'm better than others. That is how you fight it. And this actually makes the situation worse. When I ignore this thing, then I don't do anything about it. Well, how can you change anything if you're ignoring it, if you pretend it's not there? There's nothing you can do. Because to you, no, I'm okay, no problem. I remember this guy, interesting guy. He was in my retreat with his wife, and during that small group interview that we had, two of them spoke about issues that they were facing. And my retreat is people are free to talk about these things. For me, meditation retreat is not just to go there and learn how to meditate. Meditation retreat is for the purpose of freedom from suffering, so that should cover everything. And meditation retreat is a good time to really look into things because there's nothing else to do. Yeah. So they talk about their problems, and then it came to this older guy, and the first thing he said was, "I don't have a problem. I don't have any problem."
I'm not asking you for problems. I'm not asking you to say anything. You could report on your meditation, you could talk about things, but the first thing you say, I don't have any problem. So I knew not to try to even go any further because it's not going there. No point trying to dig somebody's stuff when he doesn't want to get involved in that at all. Yeah. In fact, if you try to, you'll probably get very, very angry. Yeah. So I left him alone. Yeah. So I didn't touch him. I said, oh, I'm not asking for a problem. Just talk about meditation now. But because of his attitude, obviously he didn't go far in meditation as well. Because if you ignore your issues, and you go for a meditation retreat, if you go for a real good meditation retreat, your mind will settle. And when as your mind settles, whatever stuff you have starts to surface. It starts to become obvious to you. Yeah. Just like if you have this jar, and in this jar there is fish inside, but then because the water is very, very cloudy, so you can't see the fish. You see some movement, I can't see the fish. But if you just put down the jar, don't move it, and eventually this stuff, these sediments, they settle, then you can see the fish. So it's been there, just don't see it. And then that's what happens in the meditation retreat. It starts to settle. But mostly, when that happens, a lot of people will just try to push it away all the same. And then meditation becomes a wrong kind of meditation, where you use it as a way to enhance your ability to ignore your problems. You become good at what you call dissociation. It's a psychological term. So now back to this thing about avoidance. This is one of the things that I did. Just pretend that nothing happened, just hide things away, and things don't change. Then the other way is to fight it. That is, as I say, try to make you feel greater, better than others. So there'll be, I'll find ways in which I'm better than others, and I'll try to enhance that. And whatever ways that I'm not better than others, I'll try to pretend it's not there. Not that I can do it very well. It's there anyway. Yeah. So things did not improve. Like, for example, to avoidance, one of the things that I felt ashamed about was that my Mandarin wasn't good, and I was in a Chinese school. You could say one of the best Chinese schools in Malaysia, Jitsin, Jitsin in BM. And I was either always in the first or second class. So I'm sitting around people whose Mandarin was really, really good. And I failed in Mandarin. To fail in any subject at all, if you are in the first or second class, is, really no face lah. But that happens, and so because I was avoiding the issue, I never did anything about it. I didn't do anything about it. I just tried to ignore it and just try to hide off. When the results come out, just try to quickly forget it. And so how can you do anything to change? You can't. You can't change anything that you ignore. You pretend does not exist. So what about fighting? Like an example would be to look for things that I'm better than others in. But it's also strange. This is sometimes, although I knew there were certain things that I could, theoretically know that there were certain things that I was better than others in, I was ashamed to show it. I was kind of like, I cannot show it in a humble way. Try not to be too obvious. Yeah. One of the things was singing. I was a pretty good singer. When I was in Form 5, there was a competition, and I hardly did any practice. There was little practice, but I got consolation prize. Yeah, compared to those people who actually went to, who had singing lessons and all. I never had any singing lessons. Yeah, I just did it on my own, and okay, consolation prize, not bad. But when you have this sense of defectiveness and you do something that's better than others, it's a scary thing. It's a scary thing because you're afraid that if you try to do it and you fail, you feel really, really bad. Go boom. And this is what happened when I was in university. Me and my classmates, we were assigned having to go to a beach. There was a kind of assignment that our lecturer gave. So everybody went, and there was a group of my friends and classmates who were the organizer of one event that was singing. So they had karaoke. So and a few started first, and then I said, I'll volunteer. And before I started, some of my classmates, there was a few Malay girls in front. I said, look at me, they bully girl. I said, no. In my mind, I didn't say anything verbally, but in my mind, I said, you wait and see. And I did a good job, actually. I did a good job. I sang Unchained Melody, which wasn't an easy song to sing. And the crowd, they were clapping, and then the guys with jaw dropped because they never heard me sing before. And then there's some crazy girls at the back screaming, ah! So it was a concert. And all throughout that period, I was very, very nervous. I wasn't enjoying myself. The way I was enjoying myself, because it got a lot of attention, a lot of people were really, really enjoying that whole event. They thought it was good. But I was very, very uncomfortable. I was so concerned that what if I go off key? And when you're nervous, you're even more likely to go off key. So I was so nervous all throughout. And at the end, I was like shaking. But people didn't notice. There was when I was singing, there was a group, not one of us, passing by, and then later on, one of my friends said, somebody asked, the other group, they asked, was there a recording or a real person singing?
Oh, very good.
So, although it was clear for me that I could do much better than others, and I could perform it, I didn't feel very comfortable. I didn't feel comfortable about it. There was this fear of being found out. And this is one issue that people face when they have this sense of inferiority. There's this fear of being found out, that you're actually not that. You are not that good. You're actually not. This fear of being found out. And this fear is very, very uncomfortable. So now, in terms of SIla, what do you do about this? What do you do about this thing? If you don't have any idea at all, you just feel stuck in it. You feel that no matter what you do, you're stuck. You try to do well, you try to be better, and still have it. You try to avoid it, still have it. And if you do nothing, definitely you have it. So how do you get out of this thing? So in terms of SIla, there are a few things that you need to do. Basically, there are two things you need to avoid. You need two things that need to stop. One is to stop avoiding, and one is to stop fighting. You stop these two, because when you avoid and when you fight, this is actually also karma, or karma in Sanskrit. You're doing something, you are reacting, and he said karma means action. You're reacting badly to your situation. So in a way it's bad karma, but not bad in the sense it's evil. Bad as in it's not wise, it's unskillful. when you say bad karma, we need to expand this idea of what we mean by bad karma. Usually when it comes to Buddhism, when it comes to any kind of religion, they talk about this bad karma, we talk of it like a sin and all that, and we are just so limited in our view. And that is true, partly it is, yes, true, that's bad karma, but then if you're thinking in terms of, if you have a wider perspective, you're thinking in terms of being free from suffering, then these unskillful ways of dealing with your issue is also bad karma, in a sense that you are not wise about it. You're unskillful. And these things need to be consciously stopped. This is not easy. Why? Because it is so ingrained. If you have been doing it for decades in your life, then it has become habit. And as you all know, habits are difficult to change. And habits will just come in as soon as there is a trigger that you may not be even conscious of it, and you are there, you're doing it. Maybe you only realize after you've done it. One of the things that I noticed I've done was to sometimes talk in a way that shows that I'm more intelligent than others. And then after that, I say, why did I do that? Sometimes it could be just an accent. Sometimes I found myself speaking in a British accent. Why did I do that? And then it doesn't make sense. Or sometimes I try to use big words, which is not necessary for communication. So only after that I realized, why did I do that? It wasn't necessary. No. And one of the things that, one of the ways that we fight this kind of sense of defectiveness is actually very unhealthy and actually socially very bad social behavior. That is, you put down others. Directly or indirectly, you put down others. You make people feel like they are lower, they are less. And when you make people feel lower and less, relatively you are greater, higher. But actually you didn't change, you're still there. You just press people down. And as you press them down, you go down a bit further as well. So these things, all these ways of fighting or avoiding needs to be identified and stopped. And this needs constant effort, constant paying attention. And that is where the meditation bit comes in. That is mindfulness. Meditation is not just about sitting down with your eyes closed and you call that meditation. If that is meditation to you, again, it's not going to work. It will not free you. Because your effort to be mindful needs to come in to support your change of behavior. The three actually needs to support each other. They are not isolated, they are not exclusive. They need to be integrated, they need to support each other. Without one, the two wouldn't work. It's like a stool with just two legs, it can't stand. But we have a stool with three legs, and it can stand very well. Tripod, like say three legs. Yeah. Take away one leg, it's not going to work, it's going to fall off. They all support each other. So we need to stop these things, this avoidance, and how you avoid and how I avoid could be different. You have to find out your own. There will probably be a lot of similarities, but specifically you have to find out. And then consciously, deliberately, mindfully choose to stop this behavior. Now what happens when you stop this behavior? My experience was this. Let me tell you a story when I was really making an effort in this direction. I was meditating in Burma with my teacher, SIla Tejaniya. And there was a time where I really recognized all the subtle ways that this was working, it was acting out. My first very obvious thing when I reached that meditation center was this sense of superiority, that I was a better meditator than all these new people. Hokkien people say, "You're Xin Ka Xiao." I'm the Lao Jiang, an old timer. You newbies, There was this strong sense of that, and because after practicing a lot of meditation, this thing becomes very obvious. And I was watching that and began to feel a bit ashamed of that, but again, I ignored it, push it away, tried to push it away. One funny thing was that, which I couldn't push away, was, have you been to Burma? Anyone has been to Burma? Right, when did you go there? What year? 2019. Oh, that's a few years back, just a few years ago. 10 years ago. So I've been to Burma much earlier than that. That doesn't mean I'm better than you. Right? I went to Burma in, first time was in year 2000. And at the time, Burma was really, really poor. It was really poor. Strange thing, it can be explained by this strange that Burma was actually the most advanced country in Southeast Asia in the past. They were much ahead of Malaysia and Singapore. But then, when the military government took over, things went really down. There are even places where the development was not only stagnant, it was negative. It was negative development. So when I was there, it was very obvious the first time I was there that people were very poor, education was low and all that. So it's very, very easy to feel superior. Very, very easy. Even when I was there again in year 2009, it was still very, very poor, relatively. But then, by then, there were some people who could own pretty good cars. There were some people who was making quite a bit of money already, and they could own cars that were, well, I didn't see at all in the first time I went there. First time I went there, I know that the taxi that I went into, there was one taxi that I went into where one of the doors wouldn't open. It's permanently sealed locked. You had to get to the other way, right? And one of the people I met, she said when she came from the airport, the taxi had to be started by hot wiring. That was no key. So it was really, really that poor. So it's very easy to feel superior in that environment. There's a sense that I came from a much better country. There's this feeling. So one of the things that happened that highlighted this thing to me again was that I was in the meditation center walking, and then there was a car that came in, and it looked like a car that is comparable to the cars that you normally see these days. It's not luxurious, like high-end cars, but comparable to what you can see. And the thought that came into me and I felt very ashamed about was that, as a monk, this thought came up. Now, here's the kind of car that I would go into. What? I said, my goodness. And that I couldn't ignore. It was so, to me, it was a bad thought. It's a really, really bad thought. And there were so many things that came up during the retreat. Boom, boom, boom. About me as a meditator, about the cars I would go into, maybe the kind of food that I can get in Malaysia, etc., etc., etc. So it just hit me one after another, boom, 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 boom. There was no way to ignore it. When you are very sensitive, and that's what happens when you practice meditation, you become very, very sensitive, very, very clear about what happens within you. You start to see all the bad things inside you. And people generally don't like that. It was like a friend of mine, first time she went for a meditation retreat. I didn't know I was such a bad person. Because it becomes clear to you. Yeah, it becomes very, very clear to you. And actually, to see all those bad things within you is a good thing. It's a good thing. And how else can we change if you don't see it? How else? It's a very, very good thing. But we feel bad because we take them personally. We take these things as who we are, or part of who we are, or belonging to us. And always, when we take things personally, we make things more complicated. If you don't take things personally, then, oh, okay, oh, pride, that's interesting. Oh, this thought, it's interesting. It's not a problem. But once you take things personally, you get involved, you get entangled with it, and you fight with it or try to avoid it, then you cannot be free. So that's why it's very, very important to regard these things as not who you are. It's just something that comes up because conditions are there for it to come up. It has to come up. There's no way that it cannot come up when conditions are there for it to come up. So long as the conditions are there, it has to. So what can you do? You can't deal with the results, you deal with the conditions, with the causes. And one of the things that's important is the SIla. So now, during that retreat, there were a lot of things that I could not deal with at the SIla level. It was mental, it was just this. And when it comes to the mental thing, you can't just stop yourself. And in fact, if you try to stop yourself, that's not the right way to do it anyway, that is fighting it. You won't win. You can't win that way. So, but at the SIla level, things need to stop. And when we talk about SIla, it means physical action and verbal action. So things like saying things to make yourself feel great, important, more intellectual, more intelligent, that needs to stop. When you stop this fighting and you also stop the avoiding, something happens. That is, whatever sense of shame that you have become more obvious to you. And I can tell you, through my own experience, I can tell you, it's not a nice experience at all. It's not nice at all, and I can understand why I continue to fight and avoid, and I can understand why others do the same. It was very, very uncomfortable. I can understand why some people who feel so bad about themselves that they can't fight, they can't avoid, and they have to use some kind of substances to numb themselves. Because it feels so bad. But I never took any kind of drugs or alcohol. Well, maybe my situation wasn't that bad. Anyway, I also didn't like the taste of alcohol. So, but I can understand why people do it. So, but then as a meditator, you learn to put up with it. You learn to be with that while it's still there. You learn to have the right view about it. It's just something. It's not who you are. And that gives you a distance. You feel like there's a gap between you and that thing that is unpleasant. And this is very, very important. This is view that this is not who you are. That this is just something, an energy if you like. Just something. If we can do that, then it helps a lot. You don't feel so much I need to fight. Don't feel so much I need to avoid because it's just something, it's not you. You know, if it's not you, it doesn't matter, right? It can be there, it can be not there, it's the same. And this is the best thing, you know, if you can come to a point where you don't mind it being there. Its presence and absence is the same. That's when you can really, really look at it objectively. But it's not an easy thing to get to, yeah. It takes a lot of practice. So anyway, while it's there, you have to be willing to put up with it. And that is a time where you can see clearly what is this thing? Why is it there? Why does it go on? Are there certain things that you do that continues to strengthen or continue to support this thing? And why is it there? It would mean also, how did it start in the first place? And sometimes as you feel that thing, it might make you recall something from the past, in your childhood, something that felt exactly the same. And that's when you get to see a connection of how this started. And when you can see that connection, it's really, really powerful. You can really break it. You can just go boom. This is this is how I experience. To cut off this thing. No, when you say cut off, it is not something that you can do deliberately. But when you understand it, it cuts off on its own. It just disappears like magic. So this is a kind of thing that you need to apply SIla. You need to apply changes in behavior in order to free yourself from the suffering. If you remember, I was talking about feeling ashamed about my level of Mandarin. So one of the things that I did was to change that as well. Now, it's not absolutely necessary to try to improve in certain things if it's no longer necessary. Like if you thought that other people could do certain things better than you, but you don't need that thing at all. It's no longer applicable to your life now. Then it doesn't matter. But being able to speak and write Mandarin better was applicable to me. It still is applicable to me. So I did that because I found that as a Dharma teacher, it would be useful in our environment here. It would be useful if I could speak Mandarin, to communicate in Mandarin. So I pushed myself to improve in it. I worked on it. I didn't have any kind of systematic way of doing it, but whatever came to my mind, writing down. When I think of an English word that I don't know how to express it in Mandarin, so I check it up and I write it down and I look at it again. Eventually, I found that wasn't necessary, but I worked it out in different ways here and there. Look at videos where there are subtitles underneath, to pick it up. And slowly, and it didn't take long. Although Mandarin didn't improve a lot yet in the beginning, but there was a sense that it was moving. And when there was a sense that it was moving, it already changes how I feel about myself. That, hey, I can change, I can do better than this. If I wanted to and actually make an effort, it's possible. And then changes how I felt about myself, so this idea of defectiveness began to fade. It was an important thing for me. And people were also noticing, Bhante Kumara's Mandarin now better already. Before that, I was, even if I did, I felt like I didn't do a good job, but people don't seem to mind too much. They're still trying to figure out what I was trying to say. So, I suppose they support me for my effort. So anyway, these are the things that you need to do. If you really feel that there are certain things that you're not good at and it's important to you, then make an effort. You don't have to be perfect. What is perfection anyway? It don't have to be perfect. But so long as you're making an effort and you can see the change, already it fundamentally changes your view of yourself. And that is already very, very significant. And you feel more and more comfortable about yourself, and this suffering, you start to notice this suffering is fading, is going away. Just keep moving, keep moving. That's all you need to do. Yeah, it doesn't matter how long it will take. People sometimes ask me, Bhante, got this problem. How long would it take for this thing to go away? I don't know. I'm not supposed to know. I don't know. Yeah. But I know that if you make the right kind of effort, then you're moving in the right direction. And that is enough. Okay, let me speak of something else. Something else related to another person. So recently I posted an article on failure. It's about some people not finding themselves successful in things, and they seem to continually fail to succeed. And for these people, it's not the same as a sense of defectiveness or the sense of inferiority. The person doesn't feel defective, not necessarily, unless they have both issues. But they feel like they are a failure and they can never succeed. And these people strangely will sabotage themselves. They will make sure that they don't succeed. One of the ways they sabotage themselves is to work at things that are beyond their capacity, unrealistic goals. You go for those kind of things, like for example, I want to be a billionaire by the end of this year. Okay, all right. That's an unrealistic goal. Yeah. So when you have unrealistic goals, you're sure to fail. And when you fail, you increase that sense of failure. Or if you, like in most cases, you ignore, you just pretend nothing's happening, just push this away, then again you don't do anything about it. Nothing changes. Yeah. So you need to actually stop avoiding, you need to actually stop fighting in order to actually meet this very uncomfortable thing, which makes you do things that make sure that you will never succeed, like just doing things haphazardly, just chin chai la, then if you do things chin chai, the results also chin chai la. You'll never get to something that's better. In order to succeed, then you have to improve, you have to do better in things. You have to be willing to put in the effort. And effort is not just about this bulldozing kind of effort. You need to make intelligent effort. So if you are ignoring or you are doing this, overdoing things, then you can never do the right thing. And you're stuck in it. So there was this girl who has this issue, and she, let me see, I don't really remember what she told me now, but she said that article did give her all the necessary things that she needed. And one of those things was back to early on, the same thing, like remember to see that that's not who you are. That's all very, very important. Stop avoiding, stop fighting. And when it comes to strategies as to how to succeed, that you can find on the internet. You can go Google. Yeah, you don't need me to tell you that. Yeah, I'll just provide things that you cannot find on the internet. Yeah, you can find those things so easily. So fill up the gap. Then for people with this sense of failure, as in this girl, it's enough. She knew what to do already. All this basic stuff. That article wasn't very long. I tried to keep it short. This is more than 500 words, which is a very short article. So this is what you, this is the kind of thing that we need to do. In every one of us here is different. Although we have suffering, we all have suffering. That's how we are the same. But we have different issues, we have different things to work on, we are stuck in different things, we have different karma to change. And because of that, we need to understand our own stuff. We need to understand how we are stuck in suffering. And so that we can work according to what we need. The basic thing is still Sila, Samadhi, Panya, but what specifically, anybody can say these 3 words. Sila, Samadhi, Panya, very easy. You say it over and over, but specifically in what way, you will have to look at what you're facing. You have to be very, very specific. What issues do you have? In my opinion, in fact, not just an opinion, my observation, my own experience, is that these things is psychological issues. If you don't deal with them, you can't get enlightened. There's no way that you can move far when you have these big hurdles. Some people make a distinction between, this is psychological issue, this body issue, this is not spiritual one, not Buddhist one. You don't have to pay attention and just meditate. Get jhana, okay, get enlightened, finish, habis. It's easy to say, but it doesn't work. Just because suffering is suffering. Attachment is attachment. When you have these psychological issues, you are attached to certain beliefs about yourself, about the world, about others. If you don't release those things, then you're still stuck. There's no difference between spiritual attachments and worldly attachments. Attachments are attachments. Clingings are clingings. So if you can't even uncling yourself from these gross things, then you can forget about this finer or subtle clinging, like a clinging to the sense of self. We work from the bigger things down to the more subtle things. If you go to a meditation retreat and you're allowing your mind to settle, the thing that will come to you will be the big ones. The big issues in your life. You'll come to you first. Then once you clear that off, then you'll deal with the smaller ones. Then maybe you return to the big one, but then a smaller size of the big one because you have shaved off a big part of it. Yeah, you keep going and going. Yeah, and in between, maybe you also get to have some spiritual insights, and that supports the other kind of insights, and it goes on. By the way, insights cannot happen when you want it to happen. It never happens. Yeah. That can never occur. It only happens when you don't think that it's going to happen. It's not something that you can create at will. But if you were to do the right thing, if you create the right conditions, removing all those things that are preventing that from happening, and putting in those things that will allow it to happen, then with the right conditions, it will happen. And that would feel very, very magical. So I think that's enough in terms of information. That's basic information about how you need to act, how Sila is not just keeping the 5 precepts, or even to, not even just to be a good person, not to do evil, but it has a much wider meaning. It means behavior. And so you need to look into what kind of behavioral changes that are necessary for you to free yourself from whatever suffering that you want to free yourself in. Yeah, it's something very, very personal, right? If you make an effort, you won't accidentally free more of yourself than that you want to. That can possibly happen. Yeah, it's a lot of effort. It's a lot of continual attention. Sometimes you will go backwards, but never mind, and you learn and you go forward again and again and again. Doesn't matter if you fail. It just matters that you learn from your failure. If you do fail, learn from your failure and keep going forward. So that's all for this talk. Right. Question. Question time. And according to Brother Bobby, you'll get priority. If y'all don't ask question, then those who are online will ask. So,
No
priority.
No online question.
No online.
Don't want to take.
Oh, not taking. Okay, all right. No online ones. Okay, so it's all yours. Those who are here. Anybody like to ask any question? Okay, go ahead. Oh, I thought you want to ask. Anybody? If you're waiting for others, just lift up your hand. Okay.
On already. Morning.
Morning.
Yeah. Just now, when you talk about the behavior, I just thinking about how people can aware their behavior or understand their behavior, especially in their daily life, because we tend to make mistakes even with precepts, and
Okay.
I just found out something about myself. It's like, oh, I have this behavior.
Okay.
Then I constantly I make the same mistake. Not until I knew it. Then I cannot say I cut off it, but I eliminate and try to lower down the degree.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to know how people can aware their
Mindfulness.
behavior.
Mindfulness. Lots and lots of mindfulness.
Mindfulness.
Now, in the beginning, we usually only realize it after the fact, after we had done it. You know? To give an example, in terms of the 5 precepts, I remember when I started trying to observe the precepts of not killing, it wasn't happening, it wasn't working. You know, there was so many years of habit in killing mosquitoes. And it's just so automatic. You just feel a sensation that feels like a mosquito bite. You don't even have to look. You're so skilled at it already. You don't have to look. You can even do it in your sleep. So that is difficult. But and I realized, and that happened while I was also trying to meditate. I found that I was only able to do it after I went for my first meditation retreat. Before my first meditation retreat, I could not do it. Whack! Yeah. Oh, and then remind myself, okay, don't do it again. Then boom again, then boom again. So then after going for my first retreat, it didn't suddenly change either. Mosquito, yeah. And then you say sorry, okay, all right, next time, try. And next time, the hand goes up, the hand moves towards it. I suddenly remembered, but the momentum was too strong. Boom, it goes down as well, and then the deed is done. But it was a slight improvement. There was this bit of knowing before the actual killing. And then went on. Again, I reminded myself, and it is important when you want to change a behavior, you need to be conscious of it as much as you can, even if you did not manage to change it yet. Like let's say, in the case, boom, it's done. Now you want to be conscious of it. You don't want to just ignore it. Yeah, what people tend to do is they've done something that they feel that they shouldn't do. They feel bad and try not to think about it, so they don't feel bad about it. But that is a mistake. When you ignore it, then you don't give yourself a chance to strengthen that idea of that you don't want to do it. But if you have done it and then you remind yourself, okay, that's not what I want to do in the future. And when you do that, there is a stronger idea in your mind, so that the chances of repeating that thing will be much less. Yeah. it gets less and less and less. So that's what I did, and I remember it was the time when I lifted up my hand, and I remembered, and okay, quick, go away before I change my mind. Right? And then later on, I noticed there is a desire, there's an intention, there was also the subsequent muscle tension of wanting to lift up the hand, and then already the awareness was there. And so it did carry on, go. So it evolved. And it can only evolve if you become conscious of it. Or in other words, mindful of it. And this thing takes time to develop. And again, it's an important thing, even if you fail, bring in a lot of awareness into it. Okay, so this is all right, this is what happened. And maybe sometimes you need to do some bit of investigation. Okay, so why did I do it? Yeah, why did I do it? If you could recall before that, how were you and all that? Okay, maybe sometimes you do some things, you're more likely to do certain things because your mind is a bit more disturbed. It's not so composed, it's agitated. And in that state, then you're more likely to do something that you regret. Yeah, because the mind is not stable. When the mind is more stable, is more composed or collected, then the wisdom can work better. Your mindfulness and everything will work better. Yeah. So it all comes, like I said, Sila Samadhi Panya all comes to play. All right. So you just need to be wanting to move in that direction, and you just keep trying. Yeah. There's no magic bullet to this thing. Yeah. You just have to keep making that effort, reminding yourself, and if necessary, if you find that it's not moving in that direction, then you have to do a bit of investigation, things like that. Okay? Yeah. Lots of mindfulness.
Can I have another question?
Okay. Right.
Just now mentioned about the psychology insight and the spiritual insight.
Okay.
Yeah. To compare these two, which one can be cut off?
What might be cut
Easier.
off? I mean, you want those insights. I mean, to cut off things. Yeah. Both are necessary. Both are necessary. You don't need to think, I need one more, have more of this and more of that. Both are necessary, and you cannot choose which one to happen first anyway. Just work on the conditions. Yeah, no need to make any comparison, no make any decisions about them. They come as they come. Yeah, and they can work together too. Like for example, there was a thing about me that that bothered me. There was fear of doing wrong, fear of making a mistake, fear of doing something wrong and then people find out about it and get scolded. So that made me hide things that I do wrong. If nobody found out about it, then okay, safe. So it made me hide. And even if I didn't hide, when I realized that there's something wrong, it felt very, very uncomfortable. And what I normally do is to try to ignore it, push it away. That's how I cope with it. So then what happened was, there was an occasion I did something and I felt that was very wrong, and that feeling came to me again. I don't even remember what it was anymore, but I remember that feeling came to me again, and at first I tried to ignore it, but then I realized, okay, this is not it. In fact, I've done this thing so many times already, pushing it away. It didn't solve the problem. The issue was still there. And I feel so tortured by this thing that at that time I decided, okay, this time I don't care. I'm going to watch you until I get rid of you. I doubt you. This time you're not going to let you torture you back. So there was very strong determination, strong desire to work on that thing. So I didn't run away, I didn't avoid, I didn't try to push it away, I didn't try to ignore. I let it come. But in the beginning, although I let it come, there was still resistance in me because it was such a habit. So okay, never mind. The beginning is like that. Just let it be. Just watch the resistance. You watch that thing, and it didn't happen the whole day. It just comes and goes. Certain times of the day is there, certain times not there, and when it's there, sometimes it gets stronger, sometimes it gets less. You know, if you would make it, if it makes a sound there, it's like, and sometimes it goes, it goes up and down. And I just needed to be patient, really, really patient to see it go up and down. And it took me 3 days. I was dealing with it going up and down. And on the third day, something unusual happened, something that I didn't expect. I was doing my qigong, and then the memory came up again of this thing, and the feeling came up along with it. And at that time, the attitude was really, really good. There was right view and right attitude towards it. So it's just something, and there was no resistance whatsoever towards it. It was just something, like it's just something in front of me. It's like an energy. And then suddenly it hit me. It's so interesting that it hit me. Hey, the presence and absence of this thing is the same. The presence of this is a condition, a situation, a phenomenon, and the absence is also just a phenomenon. It's just different. One is not better than the other. They are equal. They are not the same,
but they're equal. It's like doing this and that is equal. It's just different conditions. And with that, and that's kind of insight. In that insight, it just went on, boom. Completely like magic, you know, it was. So, now I don't even remember why I tell the story. But you see, I gotta point out something about this. You know, in the past, if this kind of thing happened, I feel very shameful. I feel very ashamed of. Oh God, now people are going to think that this person are very unmindful. Now I don't care about it anymore. I'm happy to tell you why I tell this story. Because I'm going to try to go back. So why did I tell this story? I was talking about maybe it's not so important anymore. So it's something that we need to do. To know how to do it. This maybe it has to do with psychological insight or spiritual insight. Yeah, but it was together. It was together. Yeah. Although at that time it was a psychological issue, but eventually it came to a spiritual insight. It's based on that issue. So you don't have to be afraid of the stuff that you have. In fact, you use them as food. They're not problems. They are things that you can use to cultivate your good qualities. I mean, if you don't have any problem, what's the point of cultivating anyway? Why practice? Right? Where's the motivation? There won't be a Buddha, there won't be a Buddha if you don't have a problem. It's because we have problems. We have suffering. Then we see a purpose, a reason, a motivation to practice. So they are not the problem itself. You see them in the right way. They are necessary conditions. Even the ego and all that, it's a necessary condition. So there's no need to differentiate between spiritual and psychological insights in terms of practice. What else? No battery. Okay. No battery. Okay. Your body battery now out.
Infinitely. Actually, I'm curious, this practice or the process of admonishment, I'm curious about
Admonishment?
yeah, from the monk or monastics,
Uh-huh.
who is with an opportunity to ask. That's what I understand. Ask each other whether any transgression.
Oh, okay. You're talking about, I think you're talking specifically of a time of the year that's called Barbarana invitation, where the monks ask each other on whether they've seen, heard, or suspected anything about me. And out of compassion, please let me know so that I can address. They need not necessarily be, although people tend to think of it in terms of something bad that the monk is doing or has done, but it may not necessarily be that. The actual phrasing of that invitation does not limit it to those things only. So you can say beyond that. You can say, I noticed that you seem to feel uncomfortable about yourself. Yeah, and that can be a very positive thing too. So you could also be notice that when you speak to people, you tend to try to diminish other people, try to put them down. It not necessarily be like precepts and all that. So it has actually a very positive function in the monastic life. And for particularly if you're a new monk, that is very, very, very important. Yeah, still doing, there's still a lot of thoughts within you. It's extremely important. And if the monks would not be willing to do that, then there's really no point living together. Yeah. And you lay people can do that too. Like within a family, you can invite your family members to see or hear or suspect anything about me. Please tell me out of compassion. You can do that. It's a wonderful thing to do. Yeah. It's an open invitation allowing the others. Of course, don't do it like a ritual. Fortunately, in the monastic world, it has become a ritual, and at the end, nobody says anything. They say, finish, sa. People won't do anything. It doesn't become a complete ritual. And it would be so much, it would be so good if the monastic would take that seriously and to talk about it. Sometimes though, some people are not so open to it. They do it because they need to do it. It's part of the thing that they need to do once a year. But eventually, when they, after making the invitation and people say certain things, they don't become defensive. Yeah. Or sometimes, I heard, I've never seen that myself. I've heard after making an invitation, people take it and a chance, the opportunity to shoot the person. Really double that person. That's not a good idea either. It's not a chance where you should. It's a chance to speak about things, to reveal things. And in my experience, there was once that I chose not to say, because I knew that that person wasn't open to it. Chose not to say. And then the next month, he said it. Then I felt then that month, as I expected, became defensive. And I thought that I felt I needed to support this guy. So I did. I said something that not much. Yeah, just to make it clear that it's not just one person's view that you have this kind of behavior. So eventually, it didn't work out either. That person continued to be very, very defensive. So I gave up. I knew from the start, so I didn't bother. But it is really good if you were to be living with people who are also interested to improve themselves, then you can be helping each other for spiritual growth. Not just, you don't have to be monks and nuns together.
Thanks for the engaging talk. I have a question about, so I mean, we're all dealing with psychological issues, whether it's mundane, like fear of participating, fear or whatever. How would keeping the SIla, or SIla as a person, support overcoming worry issues?
How will it support? Well, it can give you a lot of practice in behavioral changes, in trying to change your behavior. You practice, like for example, I talked about stopping myself from killing. It's a very gross thing, yeah. So if I find that I can make that change, I believe that I can make other changes. Yeah, if I can make other changes. So if the support in a sense of so change and believe in you that you can improve. So to give the talk about what you mentioned just now, fear of public speaking. So now how does that work in terms of SIla? Yeah. How does that work in terms of behavior? Well, you have to avoid, you have to stop avoiding public speaking. Occasionally things might happen, perhaps at work, you need to give a presentation, and a lot of people in this situation, and you do not, you push it to the other team members, you do it. No, I'm not so good at this thing. You're better, you do. So don't do that. Stop. Yeah. Then we have to think like this. We don't have to do it perfectly. We don't even have to do it very well. If we want to change, we just have to do it. We just have to show up and do it. Don't hide. And it doesn't matter if you don't do it very well, but because you actually did it, and then just did like 10% well, 10% of 100 points, getting 10 points as failure, as failure. But it's better than 0. And that 10%, if you just keep at it, later is 12, 20, it goes on. If you didn't start with that 10, when is it going to change? So it doesn't matter if it's 10. It doesn't matter if you bomb. It doesn't matter. You can start off telling people, I'm really, really scared standing here. You can start off like that, I'm really, really scared. My legs are shaking and nobody's business. I remember my first time well, that wasn't my first time, but the first time that I became conscious of it. The first time I gave a public speech, but I was in kindergarten. I was to give a graduation speech in Malay. I still remember it. Yang mulia Tuan Pengerusi, Tuan Guru Besar, Ibu Bapa, Guru-guru, Ibu Bapa dan rakan-rakan sekalian. Hari ini, and I don't remember the rest. So, at that time, there was no fear because I didn't know what I was doing. I was just following the script. There was no conscious, there was no idea of shame or that I might make a mistake and people would think poorly of me. It was absent, so there was no fear. But as you grow up, you start to have this idea of people. But then think back about me and think that I'm this and that. Actually, you have to be something what you are. So, but then it's there, and it's very disturbing. When I was in standard 6, I went on stage in the school hall, and it was the first time I went to stand in a place so high, much higher than others. That was my first experience. And I tell you, my legs were shaking like jelly. Well, at least it felt so to me. It felt so to me. After coming down and I asked another contestant, it was the talk storytelling competition. Did you see my legs shaking like crazy? Oh. But it really felt like it was shaking like jelly. It was terrible. It was a very horrible experience. But I started with something. Today my legs are shaking. I started with something. Leg shaking, later on hand shaking. But if you have a problem, you will definitely have a problem. But you need to make the effort so that you begin to change. Maybe you don't have to do a big thing. I mean, maybe start with making an announcement, small things, slowly graduate yourself, whichever way that you want to do it, and you feel comfortable about it. But still, you need to work on it and do something. Stop avoiding. So if you find that you can change in terms of the 5 precepts, then do this too. That's how it's taught.
So can you sing in Mandarin now?
I don't sing so much Chinese songs. I used to listen to English songs. Not so much into Mandarin and Cantonese songs. But I did sing too when I was playing lesson. But don't ask me about current song. my songs were the old songs. Now you call them old songs.
And my question is, you actually mentioned about meditation, and I got the impression that you meditate because the objective goal is to change behavior.
No, not just that. Meditation is for.
I do it a lot. Just on relax and full stop.
Yeah, a lot of people do that, and for a lot of people, meditation is just about calming down the mind and all that. It's helpful, but then that's all you get. If you get it at all, you may not get it. Yeah. So for me, meditation actually comes together with the rest, with SIla, together with the wisdom, and it is all that needs to come together for working towards freedom and suffering. Otherwise, meditation is just a calm down the mind, and later on you mess up the mind again and mess up the mind. It goes to where? You want the cultivation, you want the practice to change you, so that, to give you an example, so that you will find that you do not react negatively as badly as you did in the past. For example, say in the past, when, let's say you have a sense of effectiveness, or a sense of failure, and you see your former schoolmate driving in a very, very big, flashy car, and you drive a Ganqiu. How you feel about that? Now, if you have done your work, then in the past, you would perhaps in the past feel really, really uncomfortable. And if you've done your work, maybe you don't feel anything. Or maybe you just feel just a little bit of that. Then you know you have done something. You actually fundamentally change. It doesn't matter to you. It doesn't mean that you're not going to go improve yourself. It doesn't mean that you can't make more money. But you don't have to feel bad as a form of motivation. You just do it because you want to do it. I think it's a good idea. So that kind of thing, you're no longer trying to make yourself feel good because you no longer feel bad. Right?
And that is done through meditation.
That's done through the SIla, Samadhi, Manya, all three. It needs to all come in. If you just meditate, how's it going to change? It's not going to change. Even if you only did mindfulness, be mindful, practice. Because meditation is not about sitting down with the eyes closed and that's it. To me, is meditation, but that's not meditation that's going to really help you. That's not meditation that will change you. That's just some kind of daily routine and exercise, mental exercise at all. No more than that. If you want it to be something that will change you, then you need that to be something that's integrated into your life. Meditation is something that is done in your daily life, not just, no. Yeah. Can you be conscious as you speak? And you be conscious as you go to the toilet, be conscious as you drive the car, eat. You can do that and you become very, very self-aware. Then change of behavior becomes easier, and it's also easier for you to think wisely, because you can remember to think wisely all the time.
Okay. Talking about this right, is that learning from having bikes lah. I like to joke, and at times during conversation like exaggerate certain things like that. Is this actually telling lies or something like that?
Now, a lie would be really a lie if you intended others to believe the lie. Yeah, but if others knew that you're just bullshitting, then you didn't have to believe the lie, you see.
But there are some people who actually believe.
It has to do with your intention. It has to do with your intention. If you intended it, and even if others didn't believe it, that's still a lie. That's still a lie. My teacher in Burma, he's a real joker. And you won't meet a meditation teacher who can joke so well. You know, he's really, really a joker. His name even before he became a Burmese. So he will be very, very good at joking in his interview session. But if you're not in the interview session, you're outside, you'll hear something, wow, and people laugh and laugh, you know, you'll have no window to wish that book. So once there was this monk who couldn't really get what the teacher was teaching. I think it's not very intelligent. So he couldn't really get what he's teaching. It took him many months before he could really get something. And the teacher was a little bit disappointed, you know, it's like, how come you can't get it? So, but anyway, what I want to say was, there was a time that he asked something that the teacher just went. What he asked was, what posture is the best for meditation? And my teacher is somebody who keeps telling people, body is not important, the mind is important, because the mind is the one doing the job, not the body. It's not the body that meditates, the mind that meditates. So, when you ask, what's the best posture for meditation? Do you? Oh, you've been here for 3 months and you're still asking this kind of question. And so I saw his face change, man. And then he said, headstand. And of course everybody laughed. And he went, he really took it seriously. So was it a laugh? Also, the intention is the important thing when it comes to is that it doesn't matter whether that person believes. Yeah. So you intended to lie, you wanted to really people to believe that something that's not true, then it's lying. Yeah. And this actually is important when it comes to changing certain psychological behavior as well. When we sort of say something that is not really true, sometimes it is comes in the form of sarcasm. Sometimes it is in order to put down others, to make yourself feel better, and all that. This is some of the things that we need to watch out for as well. So is it just really just a joke, or is there sometimes a subtle way to demean other people? Watch out for that.
Thank you.
Sometimes we also transfer form of avoidance. You don't want to do something and then to avoid speaking in public, and then you give some kind of excuse which isn't true. Yeah. So you see, if you're really committed to the precepts, the 5 precepts, actually helps a lot in terms of your psychological issues. Doesn't mean that if you don't tell lie, you have to tell the truth. You can shut up. Yeah, you can choose not to say anything. You can also tell the person that I'm sorry, I don't want to say. But when you have decided that you don't lie, you have many other options. It's not that if you don't lie, it means you have to tell the truth. What do you think of my dress? Looks interesting. What else?
Bhante, just to follow up on this aspect of that meaningless conversation, meaningless speech, and all that.
Okay.
What is the medium to long term effect on the practitioner's mind?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so cut it down.
Yeah, I understand. The Bali is called samba. There's the word samba inside there. And I wonder if there might be some kind of etymological connection, because a lot of Malay comes from India, Sanskrit. So, have you engaged in this long idle talk with people, you whack your all sorts of things and nothing, and at the end of which you don't even remember what we talked about, and it doesn't matter at all? Have you done that? Yeah, how do you feel after that? Yes, exactly. You're tired. Yeah. Your mind is actually messed up. If you are a meditator, you realize that you don't want to do that kind of thing, because you can see the state of mind is completely messed up. So when your mind is messed up, how can you meditate well? How can you be conscious of your behavior and all this stuff? It actually breaks your mental level, your mental what we call quality. Yeah. Although it is not evil in the sense of how we normally use the word evil, but it is in a way evil as in it breaks your mental quality. Yeah. It's a difficult thing to avoid. Probably the reason of the right speech, the four right speech. This is the only one that is not included in the month's precept. It's very difficult. But if you're a meditator, you're a cultivator, you want to improve yourself, you're constantly trying to improve yourself, then you avoid this kind of speech. If it's not necessary to say, and yet you say, obviously there's some kind of unwholesomeness in it. Yeah, although it can be just very subtle, when we talk about this sort of what we call nonsense, there's always some kind of desire. Okay, what you say is interesting, but what's something more interesting to say than you? Just waiting for you to finish talking, not really listening anymore. So especially when guys talk about politics, and you don't know half of what I know. Something even better. I've got even better analysis than you when you finish. So there's always this stuff going on if you really check. So if you really want to improve your mind, if you want to really go down, then your body is go a bit more time. I won't be staying back for you to come in front here and then ask. Leaving exactly at 11:50. So if you want to ask anything, this is your time. If not, I can leave now.
It's one. Earlier you actually mentioned about. Earlier you mentioned about we are feeling not good enough, and you were very specifically mentioned, especially first child. So I was actually quite curious.
Why?
You were like,
I noticed that Malays don't seem to have that much of, that they don't have that problem as much as the Chinese do. And I think that has to do with parenting, it's cultural. The psychological issues come from our childhood. And before the age of 20, when things happen to us because our even physically the brain is not very well developed yet, it's not fully mature yet. I read that the brain only comes to when it stop growing somewhere about maybe 4 years old. So, which tells you that people at 18 should go yet. Anyway, before we become mature as an adult, we are not good at filtering things. We are not good at analyzing and distinguishing between right and wrong, distinguishing between true and not true. So, which is, especially in the young, sort of anything. So if your parents tell you it useless over and over again, you're going to believe it. And even if they don't say such things very directly, indirectly, they might say things. You see, neighbors are always so gully, why you so useless and so stupid, or even they don't use very stupid, they think, oh, so smart, so clever and all that. They don't say about me, maybe something wrong about me. Or sometimes like, oh, so pretty, why don't say pretty? So, things like that. Yeah, it is already, it's very much Chinese culture to say such things. It's less than before, that's what I've observed. But it's still there, and maybe for people on this age, I mean, you probably have experienced some level of that in your childhood. The two things, one is this, and the other one is a sense of subjugation. You feel that you control, you have to do things according to what your parents say. You don't have the right to make your own decision. That kind of thing, so that you grow up to you're afraid of sort of people with authority. You're afraid of serving your own needs. So this is also a convention of Chinese. So that's why I feel this is so. When once that thing is established and you don't see that as wrong, you will perpetuate it, you will transmit it to your children. They will inherit your stuff, because this is not a physical gene, it is a cultural gene. So, but then if a person can become conscious of it, then even if he cannot reduce it, he can reduce it to some extent. And therefore he doesn't bring so much of it down to the next generation. So the next generation will be better. And that's what my father did. My father, when I was young, my father used to beat us. Like if you were to things like eating. I had bad digestion as a kid, and so I don't feel like eating. And my father didn't understand that. So when I didn't want to eat, he felt that wasn't picky and all that. So it became a comment whack. Then I would cry, and then he would whack again and tell me to stop crying. And when you whacking me, how does that? So, and he would hit us for very, very minor things. And so when he gets irritated, he'll do that. And that somehow stopped when I was 12. And which surprised me, my brother, how come he did that? Because we expected it and certain things happen. That didn't happen. Well, because get scolding or much less punishment, like to stand on the chair, things like that. No hitting. So surprised. That changed. So this is what I mean. And he later on, I did ask my mom. My mom said, well, he realized I think friends told him that that's not how you should treat your children. He realized that and then he stopped. So that's an improvement. Yeah. This is what we need to do. Even if you can't free yourself, then at least you don't pass down the stuff to the next generation. You can actually even do it out of love for the next generation. And a lesser thing that happens in among Chinese is the abuse. This is very much less abuse, physical abuse or sexual abuse. That's less. But if that kind of thing happens, that's very sticky. It's very likely to go on for the next generation. But still, people can be so conscious of it that they really choose not to do it. They can tell themselves, never ever treat my children that way. Not doesn't mean that they will necessarily be able to do it. People will tell themselves as a child, when I grow up, become a parent, and children, never treat my children that way. But then when they become an adult, they become a parent, they actually do the same thing. And then suddenly maybe they realize, I'm doing the same thing. If they realize at all. So because this thing is so internalized, it's very difficult to sometimes even see. Because you have justified your parents' behavior. You justify your parents' wrong behavior, then you are very likely to do the same. So we don't have to justify our parents' bad behavior. Neither do we have to blame them for the rest of our lives. Because they also are like you, they got it from the previous generation. You can see a bad behavior, wrong behavior as wrong behavior without getting separated. Still a wrong behavior, but I don't have to personalize it. So in that way, you're on the middle path. Middle path is not halfway here, halfway there, it's the path. It's the wise path. 3 more minutes. Last question. I think no more question. I can throw it. Okay, so shanners.
Yes.
It's a Buddhist ritual. Shanners. I think this is more than just a ritual. If you were to take it seriously, then what we have done today, if you were to take that all very seriously and put it to practice, then it definitely is going to be something that will affect others around you. So please repeat after me. Today, without much merits, listening to the Dhamma, discussing the Dhamma, observing the precepts, and other characteristics that we share these merits with our parents, teachers, other relatives, friends, our departed ones, our guardian devas, the guardian devas of our homes, the guardian devas of this place, the guardian devas of the world, other devas, spirits, and all other beings, may they obtain, share these merits, and be well, happy and peaceful. And these merits help us to practice well, and be free from all sufferings. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Please give 3 bows to Bhante. There's a batch in which we give donations for the Samha. Bhante, they put in the free packet there, right at the back there. And also, today is the last talk for before Chinese New Year. We still have a lot of cookies there. The cookies sales proceeds will be for the maintenance of this building. So, hope you all can help to clear up with this before you will go back to your. And also, if you like to give a donation to help maintain the center, there's a donation box there. That will go to the maintenance of the center.
Okay. We don't need to bring for that.
Either.